UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomenon. Are they extraterrestrial, interdimensional, time travelers in origin, or are they simply a result of top-secret military projects, false flag alien invasions, PSYOP, drones, or other human-made aircraft? Join the discussion now on UAP Crossfire.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to UAP Crossfire. It's a delight to have you with us this evening. We've got a show I'm sure you're going to enjoy. Joining me here in the studio tonight from scattered places unknown in the East, we have first Chris DePerno. Chris, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Look, this is going to be an exciting show because I'm into all this, Bible stuff. I love it. I'm a very spiritual person, and L.A. Marzulli is just the top of his game.
He certainly is. Commander Cobra, how are you?
Good evening, gentlemen, and I'm echoing Chris tonight. Longtime fan, longtime student of LA's work. I enjoyed him when he was doing a show on KGRA in the back old days when I was just joining this station, I should say. So it's going to be a great show. We're very fortunate to have him tonight.
I must confess I'm a little embarrassed here, and you two have an advantage over me. Most of my research into ufology has consisted of looking at news and going back through news archives and looking at investigative reports and so on and so forth. So up until about 3 weeks ago, I was not familiar with L.A. Marzulli and his work. And then one day he came up in my Facebook reels and I watched one of his videos, and I have been an L.A. Marzulli junkie ever since that time. I got a hold of his latest book, Rungs of Disclosure. Could not stop. 24 hours I digested. That's what it looks like there, and we'll have more on that too coming up. But now that we've hyped him up enough, let's bring in L.A. Marzulli.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you for making time for us. This is such a diverse perspective that you bring because you cover practically every aspect of ufology and the related super-normal types of phenomenon. Would you just give us a little bit of background as to how you started getting into this?
Do I have to?
The listeners might want to know.
No, I understand. I was immersed in the New Age and in the occult since I was 13 years old. So from 13 to 30, I'm reading occult books. I've got spirit guides. I join an ashram. I tag team with a guru, and I'm in the ashram. I believe the guru is God. My third eye is opened, and I'm all things New Age. At 25, I left, or actually at 24, I left the guru, and became sort of agnostic, but still looking. And all this stems from when I was 18, and my girlfriend Michelle was 16. And she was suddenly killed. She was killed suddenly in an automobile accident. Just that was it. And it's like, whoa, it's so sudden, it's so final. And that set me on the quest, which led me to the guru and New Age philosophy and spirit guides and Carlos Castaneda and Ouspensky and the fakirs in India and on and on and on it goes. So I became an agnostic after I'm kind of hopping around. After I left the guru, I became an agnostic. And then at right around 30, people started giving me books, and I started reading them. One of them was Taylor Caldwell, and others, A Great Lion of God from a Christian perspective. And, I grew up Catholic, but I had long since left any type of Catholicism. At 13, I was gone. I mean, I never wanted to set foot in a church again. It was all a joke to me. And at the end of one of the books I was reading, Dave Hunt, The Cult Explosion, there's a little prayer at the end, ask Jesus into your heart. What do I got to lose? So I said, this is my prayer. I'm alone in my room, nobody around. I just go, look, if you're real, come into my life. If you really exist, if everything I've been reading in Dave Hunt's book is real, come into my life. So nothing happened, nothing happened. And then about 30 days later, all hell broke loose. And I woke up from a horrible dream weeping weeping uncontrollably. And that was the beginning of 3 years of very intense boot camp. The woman I was living with, she left. I came home from work one day. My little guest house was completely stripped of everything. She took everything. I slept on the floor that night and borrowed a blanket from my landlord, who was the same age I was. And I had 2 mentors immediately, Wayne Kendall and Pastor Fred Nicholas, and that got me through that 3-year period. And that's 45 years ago. And I was at church, and the doors were open. I knew nothing about supernatural spiritual warfare. People I was with didn't know anything about it either, not like we know now. Put on the armor of God, Ephesians 6, all that. Our battle isn't against flesh and blood, but against, supernatural entities. And so I was immersed in the biblical narrative. I became a worship leader. I've been a musician forever. And before I was a Christian, I was chasing the rock and roll carrot. With the guru, I was writing and arranging for a big 56-piece orchestra. So, my roots are always in music. I become a Christian. There's a nasty split in the church. The pastor's wife comes up, will you lead worship? I say, I have no idea how to lead worship. We'll show you. So the head elder was an expert at it. And I was under his wing and learned from George Wibbler basically how to lead worship. And so I was under his tutelage and became a worship leader and was that for basically 25 years. During that period of time, the Lord began to move me away from that. And the first book that really did it was Dr. I.D.E. Thomas's book, The Omega Conspiracy. Because up till that point, I was wondering, what about the flood of Noah? Who's this God of the Old Testament guy? Why is he wiping everybody out? Why does he destroy the world? Why does he confuse the tongues? Why does, he destroy Sodom and Gomorrah? Why is there a mandate to kill everybody in the promised land? I don't like this guy at all. Jesus, I love, but this guy in the Old Testament, something weird's going on with him. They got to be 2 different gods. Maybe somebody screwed up somewhere. That's what I'm thinking. I read Dr. I.D. Thomas's book, which opens up and unpacks the Genesis 6 narrative, what happened, who they were, the Nephilim, and Genesis 3:15, thank you, Gary Stearman, unpacked it even further. The seed of the woman, the seed of the dragon will be at war with the seed of the woman. The one coming from the seed of the woman, the proto-evangelion, the Messiah, will crush the dragon's head. You will pierce his side. I mean, that's the entire biblical narrative right there. That's the entire guidebook of the supernatural. Your seed, your offspring will be at war with the seed, the offspring of the woman. The proto-evangelion, the Messiah, will crush your head. You will bruise his heel. Bruise his heel, not side. Bruise his heel. That's the deal. And then 3 chapters later, guess what? The seed warrior-ups. The Nephilim are on the earth. Who are the Nephilim? I want to just clarify something really quick. There are those who tenaciously hold to the Sethite theory. The Sethite theory states that the godly line of Seth married the hoochie mamas of Cain and created the Nephilim. No. Seth is not mentioned in that chapter, and hoochie mama, the last time I checked, was not in the Bible either. So something's off here. And this all, when Jesus says it'll be like the days of Noah when he returns, everybody knows exactly what he's talking about. Why? Because there is no Sethite theory. That doesn't come in to this knucklehead, and he is a knucklehead. Julius Africanus just pulls a rabbit out of his hat and creates a Sethite theory. So if you're an upcoming pastor and you're in seminary, that's what you're taught. You're not taught the truth. You're taught this ridiculous Sethite theory, which didn't come into vogue until the 4th century. Thank you, Augustine and Julius Africanus, the premier knucklehead, which turned everything on its head. No pun intended. And when Jesus talks about it'll be like the days of Noah, 2,000 years ago, there is no Sethite theory. Everybody there within earshot knows exactly what he's talking about. Oh, the Nephilim. Oh, by the way, the bones of the Nephilim are openly on display right here in Jerusalem right now. You want to go see them? You just walk down past the temple to make a left down on 1st Street, and there it is. They were openly on display. How do we know that? Josephus writes about it. They were openly on display in Jerusalem at the 1st century. So when Jesus says it'll be like the days of Noah, they don't know what he's talking about. Oh, you mean fallen angels are going to come back and procreate with the women and create hybrid beings? Exactly. Then when we get to Daniel 2:43, what do we get? Their seed will mingle with the seed of men. There's that nasty little word, that pesky word, seed, offspring. Your seed will mingle with their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. Who are they? Well, it's not men. So who are they? It's only one. It's the fallen angels. This is why Genesis 3:15. Guess what? It's coming back again. The abduction phenomenon is real. People are taken. Sperm is taken from the men. Ovum is taken from the women. We write about this in Rungs of Disclosure. We also have 10 films on the whole UFO phenomenon, and that is the best UFO picture you'll ever see, right there. That's the Kumburgaz UFO, taken by the late Dr. Roger Lear, Kumburgaz, Turkey. What you are looking at right there are the two grays inside the saucer. There it is right there. Not making this stuff up. And we had the original film of it from Dr. Roger Lear. I actually show it in the very first UFO film. There's 10 films in this. We have 10 films on the UFO phenomena. Everything from close encounters of the first, second, third, and fourth kind to abductions, cattle mutilations, 2 films on Roswell. I mean, crop circles. We really do a deep dive and let people know what's going on. And yet, the church, for the most part, is so ignorant and so asleep. I've done my job, guys. I've done my job. I have 10 films on it. We've got books on it. I mean, I can't you can bring a horse to water. That's exactly what we're looking at.
Okay, so
doesn't want to.
It's kind of been like drinking from the fire hose here the last 5 minutes. It's kind of blasted all out there.
Right.
Let me just, for the sake of our viewers who might not be as familiar with the material, what LA is referring to is in Genesis 6:1 in the Bible. It says this: "Now it came about when men began to multiply on the face of the ground, daughters were born to them. And the sons of God saw daughters of men were beautiful, and they took," and that word there is key, took wives for themselves, whomever they chose. And then Jehovah said, "My spirit will not remain with man forever. He is also flesh, therefore his days shall be 120 years. And the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward. When the sons of God came into the daughters of men, they bore children to them. Those were mighty men who were of old, men of renown." And it goes on to describe the abuses the Nephilim did to the people of earth. So what LA has come to the conclusion of, and this is what I had concluded as well, the thing that's beautiful about LA for me is he took everything that I'd been thinking and he put it in that book, Runs of Disclosure. And finally, I found someone who shares the same ideas and conclusions from that. So with this in mind now, I want to make sure the other guys get plenty of time to get their questions in. Commander Cobra, let's go to you and fire away.
Well, L.A., as always, long-time fan, student of a lot of the stuff that you put out. I look forward to it. I enjoy the YouTube as well, and it's great to see you. And I love the story that's behind this as well. As you know, when we were prepping for the show, one of the things I wanted to make sure you knew was I grew up in a household, Catholic as well, about 10 years younger than you. And the whole UFO craze of the 60s was a big part of the household that I grew up in, especially up here in New England with all the events that were happening in that time period. And it was never non-compatible with our faith. There wasn't a conflict behind it. So over the years, especially, I have been one that has felt that there is a unified field, to borrow the Einsteinian kind of approach to this. And I think you've probably tapped it and put it into wording better than I can't think of anybody who's done a better job. With that said, what do you think is the driving force that people refuse to see the paranormal tie-in, the underpinnings of all these things that are going on around us? Now, obviously, we can get into a long, protracted discussion about, and I'm saying I'm laughing, but not in a good way at all. But the peeling apart of our society, our global family, the things that are going on. And it kind of fits a playbook that most of us that listen to the show and everybody that's sitting here tonight knows about. We're sure we know what the playbook is that's causing this, or the program we're on. But why do you think people refuse to think that, well, I don't want to talk about cryptids when I'm here to talk about UFOs? I don't want to talk about ancient history that is an alternative because, well, I've been told this is the history. And then when you examine it, it's not accurate, as you were saying before. When you look at, well, what's the source of this? Your thoughts on that?
Well, there's like you're giving me almost
4 hours worth of show.
Yeah, we really have. There's a show that we do on the Trail of a Nephilim, and the byline for that is there's a hidden history that's been deliberately, got an itchy nose tonight, deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world. There's a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world. And it has been. It's a managed agenda. An absolute, like Chick Messler used to call it. We live in a managed agenda. We don't get any news at all from the major networks. It's controlled. It's manipulated. We are lied to day in and day out. We've got leaders who are absolutely corrupt in every possible way you can imagine. Hopefully, it's starting to come out on some level. We're pawns in this game. But to kind of circle back into the whole UFO thing, you remember, anyone who believed in the UFO was a conspiracy theorist. So you proudly wore your tinfoil hat. I have all these props here right at my desk. What are you guys laughing at? I mean, this is, come on now.
I love it. I got to get one.
Yeah. So, you wore your tinfoil hat and you were a conspiracy theorist. The word conspiracy theorist came from the JFK assassination. Anyone who didn't believe the Warren report was immediately labeled what? Conspiracy theorist. So now we know Anna Paulina has stood up, Anna Paulina Luna stood up in a press conference and said, I've seen the documentation from the JFK files. There were 2 shooters. Oh, wait a minute. That blows the single bullet theory right out of the water. We were all lied to. I never believed the official narrative. I was only 13 when he was killed. By the time the Warren report came out, I was a little older, 14, 15 years old. I said, no, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying any of this. And then, so when I was in Dallas for the first time behind the picket fence, by the way, which is still there, and the picket fence is less than 60 feet away from the kill shot, the headshot goes back and to the left. So there's the picket fence over there. Boom, right in the temple. Bam, back and to the left. It blows out the back of his head. That's why the 2 policemen riding next to, or the 1 policeman on the motorcycle, gets completely spattered with blood. Yeah, I wonder how that happens. Oswald has Maggie drawers. It was a crappy shot. I've been to the sixth floor depository. Are you kidding me? And when you pretend, you can't get in the so-called sniper's nest because they got it all glassed in, but you can stand in the window next to it, and you can pretend you've got a rifle, and you can sight down, and as the JFK film, he's coming up Elm. Why not take you got a clear shot. He's coming right at you. No. Oswald waits till he's way down on the other street, right? Way down there. And then he just takes this lucky shot, and the Secret Service guy, the 2 Secret Service guys are supposed to be standing on a platform which is attached to the rear bumper. And they're holding on to handles which are welded to the trunk. So those 2 Secret Service men would have shielded the president. Guess what? It's on film. As they're leaving Love Field, the Secret Service men are running next to the limousine. A guy stands up in the follow-up car and goes like this, calls them down. Then on the streets of Dallas, a Secret Service man, one of these guys, realizes protocol has been breached. The president is unsecure. He's not secured. Where are the guys riding on the back? They're not there. He goes running after the limousine, grabs the handle, and he's like, hanging on for dear life. And then he's called to stand down. And he jumps off the bumper and he goes like this. I'm a student of body language. He's going like, what? 3 minutes later, Kennedy's dead. On that picket fence, and this is to your point, on that picket fence that was written, Magic bullet, magic buildings, magic birth certificate. Magic bullet, the Kennedy assassination. Magic buildings, 9/11. Buildings don't fall at free fall speed. They don't turn into dust as you watch them collapse. And the magic birth certificate, Barry Soetoro. Is he really? And you can't get any of the records. It's all sealed up. Who's got the power to do that?
Well, if we steer this back to the UAP,
No, we need to. Sorry.
That's okay. UAP arena. Commander, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but was it along the lines of the suppression of truth? Who do we think is doing that and why?
Well, I'll expand. That's part of it.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that there is a demonic portion to this that's running. Just today, what was said today about where our rights come from and the whole connection to God is that's a pretty upsetting thing for someone who's taken the oath to the Constitution and spent a long time, part of my life in that, in its defense, in the defense of its people. So that's a pretty upsetting little piece of theater that went on today. So what the part I'm driving at is, I think that we have been involved in a lie for so long. We have so many compartments. We have so many people, like the old movie of the mummy, that the people that dug the grave for the mummy that comes back to life. Those people are killed, and the guards that killed them, they get killed, and we bury it. We try to bury it in sand, literally, where this is. So there's no connection. I don't know if we can come clean. I don't know if we can do that. And in LA, we can go on. I can go on for hours with you. I think we have great advanced technology. We don't know how we're going to allow the world economy to do that. We have all these different precipices we're on of conflict that we're just trying to manage it. We're not doing a very good job. My point really goes back to, why do you find that we segment out into these camps? And it may be a fairly obvious answer. I think I may even be giving away what we're driving. But we've gotten tribal, not just in nations, not just within our country, not within just the global communities, but we are tribal in almost everything. We attach to one thing and we refuse to look at the entire part. And that is why I think the Bible has been used effectively as a weapon to divide, and it comes at great cost.
Okay, let me walk through it, because again, you've opened up so many doors here. I mean, which one do I go through? 1947, the Roswell crash. We have 2 films on it. Okay, Exoneration and In the Debris Field. By the way, this is a piece of metal that came from a debris field. It's an aluminum alloy. I want to thank Chuck Zukowski and Frank Kimbler for being out there. That's Frank Kimbler's metal detector. He was the one that got it, and we have it on film. We're the only film company to actually show the metal coming out of a debris field from a 1947 Roswell crash. 47 changes everything. 47 sets up the shadow government. 47 begins the deliberate obfuscation of material, of events which should have changed history, but it was put. And how many death bed confessions do we have to have? How many witnesses come forward a month before they die, a week before they die, do an affidavit sealed until the time? How many of these do we need before we realize that we've been lied to the whole time? We've been absolutely lied to. We went out to the debris field. We found a piece of the metal after 70 years. How is that even possible? How is it even possible? But we did. We found it. We had it analyzed. We went to what was formerly SEAL Lab, put the metal under a scanning electron microscope. They don't know what it is. It doesn't match any aluminum alloy that we know of. It's like in between them. And Frank Kimbler did it with his piece, and Chuck Zukowski did it with his piece. Same thing. It's right in between these 2 aluminum alloys. We don't know what it is, where it came from. There were bodies that were taken. There was material that was taken. The technology was back engineered at Area 51. How do we know this? Bob Lazar. But it's always, you're a conspiracy theorist. You're wearing your tinfoil hat. You're an idiot. Are you on drugs or something, whatever? So anybody who looked at UFOs, immediately was labeled this. And this went on for decades. So everyone is afraid to talk about it. at all. No one will even broach the subject for fear of being ridiculed. And even today, even though our Congress is talking about it, you go into a church and you go, how many of you have seen a UFO, lights in the sky, been taken, had an entity in your room, had sleep paralysis, seen orbs? Raise your hand. 30% of the audience raises their hand. The pastors sit there and go, I had no idea. Well, of course not, because this whole thing is a disconnect from people. People are afraid to talk about it. They'll come up to me. I mean, I've had husband and wives come up, and the wife is telling me how she was abducted when she was 8 years old, and the husband's like this. You never told me that. He can't even believe it. But they'll come up to me. Why? Because, I'm the guy that's got all these films and all these books and been talking about it till the cows come home. This is the coming great deception.
Yep.
Because when they show up, everything changes in a flipping nanosecond. In a flipping nanosecond, just like that. The technology is there. They buried it. They back-engineered it. Who knows how deep it goes? What President Trump needs to do, and I keep saying this over and over again, they need to get 500, and Cobra, you know what I'm talking about, of the best of the best of the best. They need to handpick 500 guys, right? Take 250 of them, they go to Wright-Patterson Field. The other 250, they go to Area 51. They go, we're done, okay? We're tired of the shadow government. We're tired of this little black ops thing, which nobody knows where it's getting funded from, and no one knows what you guys have. And no president has ever been down in the barrels of Area 51 or Wright-Patterson Field. They don't go there. Gee, I wonder why. Because we're ruled by a shadow government. We're ruled by the deep state. And they are put the kibosh on the whole UFO UAP thing. Now, in Congress, they're trying to get to the bottom of it. It's a dog and pony show. I mean, to me, it's an absolute flipping joke. Commander David Fravor gets on there and goes, this thing with the tic-tac object and it moved at a speed, it would kill the occupant of the craft. Anna Paulina Luna, sits there and goes, now what do we do? And Nancy Mace is interviewing David Grush. It's one of the rungs on the ladder of disclosure. Do we have the crashed craft? Yes, we have the crashed craft. Then Nancy Mace goes, do we have the bodies of the crashed craft? And David Grush looks up at her and goes, yes, we have the biologics that were recovered from the crashed craft. And Nancy Mace goes, well, were these human biologics or something else? These were non-human biologics. You would think this is in the halls of Congress, not coast to coast with George Norrie, not L.A. Marzulli's podcast and daily show. This is the halls of Congress, David Grush, under oath, stating on the record, we've got retrieved bodies. Hello, McFly. I mean, what are you people waiting for? The churches still won't talk about it. You're still ridiculed if you bring it up. I've been kicked out of churches for this stuff. I don't care anymore. I've done what the Lord has told me to do. We have 10 films on UFOs. We have the Runs of Disclosure, runsofdisclosure.com. It's an interactive website. This is the coming great deception. How do you create a one world global government and a one world religious system? How do you do that? Do you really think everybody's just going to lay down? Oh, yeah, they will. When they show up, everything changes. Absolutely everything changes. And look, the Ancient Alien on the History Channel, that show has been promulgating. I was on the first 2 seasons. That show has been promulgating what I would call the coming great deception for over a decade. And they basically state that we were seeded here by an advanced race of extraterrestrials who genetically manipulated early man, started the early civilizations, started the world's religions, and now at this critical juncture in human history, they're back to usher mankind into the golden age. And that's what they say. That's what they promulgate. They do it every Friday. Your kids and your grandkids are already indoctrinated, and you don't know it because you're asleep at the wheel. And I say that with all due respect. Your kids and your grandkids are already indoctrinated. They already believe the lie that's been promulgated, that we were seeded here by an advanced race of extraterrestrials. Watch the 2024 Super Bowl ad below down there. That's one of the rungs. That's not in the book, but it's on runsofdisclosure.com. That is telegraphing what's about to happen. And I think it's soon.
LA, it's almost, well, let's get Chris in here. Chris has been patient. Chris, your turn.
I love listening to him. I was about ready to get some popcorn and a soda, well, beer really, and have him just keep talking.
Well, it's better than what you talked about on the show prep that you're ready to snack on.
Well,
all right. No, we don't go any further. I just wanted to make sure
I rather have the stuff that I talked about off air than I do on the stuff on air. But I want to keep it a family show, a little bit of that. And so, anyways, Ellie, I first of all, I like the idea that you're a spiritual person, but you have some conflict with the Catholic Church. Am I correct on that?
Well, I don't want to start bagging on the Catholic Church because it's the largest Christian denomination on the planet. What is it, like 1.2 billion followers? I mean, it's unbelievable, right? A lot of people. I take issue with it because they've invented some things which I just don't believe in at all. That's what I take issue with.
Yeah, I'm a very spiritual person, but I got my problems with priests, I should say, some priests. As being a major crimes detective, I have run into some that, let's just say, probably shouldn't be in the priesthood. And we
I understand
that and stuff. And so, with that being said, I'd like to just pivot a little bit and talk about the Watchers, because that's what from what I understand, you really started really heavy on the Watchers. You put a lot of videos out and stuff like that. For those who don't know, can you explain what the Watchers is, why you started investigating the Watchers, and what you see the future of the Watchers?
The Watcher angels are a group of angels, a classification of angels, Watchers, okay? There are good Watchers and there are bad Watchers. So we know from the Book of Enoch, which is not part of our canon, but if you take the Book of Enoch, chapter 6, and you overlay it on the King James Bible, chapter 6, that reads word for word. So something's going on. Jude quotes the Book of Enoch in a short little letter. Why does Jude quote something? You don't quote something unless it's part of your wheelhouse. Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we will be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. The trumpet will sound, and the dead will rise imperishable, for we all must be changed. That's my wheelhouse.
Yeah, but
it's 1 Corinthians. I'm quoting it because it's part of who I am. Jude is quoting Enoch because it's part of who he is. And what is he talking about? The Watcher angels. He's talking about the Watchers. What did they do? Genesis 3:15. They came down and they mingled their seed with the seed of women. And Pastor Dan already read that, right? And they created this hybrid being known as the Nephilim, which results in the global flood.
And well, the thing is, when you talk about revelations and the Watchers and of that nature, don't people have to disappear first? I'm using the layperson's term, disappear. There's a certain amount of people that will leave this earth and the rest will stay behind.
You're talking about the rapture of a church.
Right. And do the Watchers play into that?
Well, the good Watchers will, for sure. The bad Watchers will be part of the deception. Let me read you something. In the back of Cobra, you can see it. He's on the wall. He's got "What is the Truth?" This is a track that we created. Thank you, Brad Myers, if you're watching. This is channel information.
It's fantastic.
Thank you. Is channel information. There's a woman who has taken on an entity, mistake number one, and the entity is using her voice, her hand through automatic writing, whatever occult technique that she's using to get the information. So the entity is going through her, all right? This is what it says. Remember, this is not the Bible. This is channeled information from a fallen angel. There is a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. The people who leave the planet during a time of Earth changes do not fit here any longer, and they are stopping the harmony of the Earth. It's just like, right? That explains away the rapture of a church. Mm-hmm. And this is from the other side of the aisle. They're already explaining away the rapture of a church because it's going to happen. People will leave the planet. People will leave the planet. And that's how they're going to couch it. Oh, the Space Brothers took them to another place because these people who leave, they were, they don't fit here any longer. We don't fit here any longer. That's what they're saying. The other side of the aisle, that's what they're saying. And you're right. We don't fit here any longer. My allegiance is to the Lord Jesus, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Messiah. That's, my whole life is wrapped up in him. Our latest film was on the Shroud of Turin. It took us a year to get that film out. The Shroud of Turin, the Sudarium of Oviedo, the Holy Fire that appears every year in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And yet, you go online, the Shroud of Turin is nothing but a fake medieval club. Excuse me, go to shroud.com, spend an hour there. Don't write me an email, please. Please. Because ignorance and arrogance is a deadly combination. If you've done no research on the Shroud, go to shroud.com or watch our film. It'll blow your mind. This is God's calling card. See this? That's what happened to him. Look at the scourging. It's absolutely horrific. Notice that the nail is not in the palm of the hands. It comes back. This is not a medieval forgery. There's no paint. There's no dye. There's no ink on the Shroud of Turin. I could talk about this for the next 10 hours, but I won't. So let's get back into the whole UFO thing. This is a great deception. And when they show up, everything changes. And it changes in a nanosecond. I believe, and I wrote about this is conjecture. I believe there's going to be a nuclear event on the planet somewhere. And that's
pretty close.
I know, but that's what they're waiting for. A nuclear event creates the greatest climate of fear that mankind has ever experienced collectively. And when that happens, when that nuke event happens, that changes everything.
All right, so I get this from ULA that when a nuclear event happens, that's where mankind will be at its most vulnerable.
Bingo.
Demonic people or demonic entities will more or less come down as saviors of like extraterrestrials and say, hey, we're here to save the planet, but they're not really. So, I mean, we're looking at something that is not going to be a good thing, right?
Well, that's conjecture, but that's exactly what I think is about to happen. I think
because there's a lot of people who think of the abductions are wonderful things. And I've studied a lot of abductions. I've done a lot of cases on abductions, and I could tell you 99.9 of the people I said are terrified. They're in pain. It's horrible. They can't sleep in the bed anymore. They got to sleep with the lights on. They're scared to go to sleep.
This is a book by Karen Wilkinson that we were proud to publish, Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest. She was an abductee. She's also in our 10-part UFO film. She was an abductee. She was taken at a very early age, and she was impregnated by them 3 different times. And then they came and took the baby in the 3rd month of pregnancy. So this ties right into Daniel 2:43. Their seed, stolen seed, evil harvest, their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. There's no marriage contract. That's in Daniel 2:43. That's ancient prophetic language that's been sealed up and hidden from, most people until modernity.
All right, here's a question I've always wanted to ask somebody like you. Does a hybrid or, let's say, a child taking have a soul?
No. The Nephilim are soulless, and a hybrid being are soulless. God gives a soul, in my opinion, at the moment of conception. Sperm, egg, ball of light, soul. Soul enters right there from the moment of conception. The Nephilim, who are the progeny of fallen angels and human women, there is no soul. They are soulless. They are in a fixed state. They're spirit bodies, and they have bodies, but they are in a fixed state. They cannot be redeemed.
All right. Well, then, can a hybrid, I'll call them hybrid, that's probably the wrong term, but being a layperson on it, can a hybrid be good?
No.
And if they are good, they can't? There's no way they can be good?
They're in a fixed state.
They don't have a soul.
They don't have a soul. They're in a fixed state.
Okay.
That's why they never get the eyes right. The big black eyes, right? Like you see, like look at the fetus here.
Right. I see.
Think of the black-eyed kids. Same thing, right? All the hybrids. They can't get the eyes right because the eyes are the windows to the soul.
All right, LA, we have people in the chat, and some of the people in the chat have had experience personally with UFO abductions. I'm also part of a group of pastors that meets monthly via Zoom and talks about these issues. A couple calls ago, there was another woman there who is a Christian, but she continues to be abducted. For somebody who is an abductee and wants to be free of it, how can they get free?
I can have Karen talk to the woman. I would like to talk to her. Obviously, there's an open door somewhere in her life. She's not coming clean with something. There's an open door. I don't know what that open door is, but I guarantee you there's an open door. Guarantee.
Okay. By open door, for those who may not be familiar with this speak, we're talking about at some point in your past, a window to the spirit world was opened. Mm-hmm. It can be something, as obvious as a Ouija board.
Oh yeah.
Or something less obvious. And for that moment that window is open, you are open to the influences of the demonic realm.
Yep.
And if at that time you are not a Christian, you do not have the Holy Spirit of living God living within you, you don't have a protection. You don't have a defense against that. And then this seed of evil can be planted in you to be germinated at a later time when it's useful to them. When we're talking about the progression of events here, the Nephilim came, and it says they took wives.
Plural.
Now, L.A., you are more versed in this than I probably, but my understanding from Hebrew is that when they're taken and they have children, it says they came into them. It doesn't necessarily refer to the kind of a conjugation that we would think of. It's perhaps that these women were taken and impregnated by these beings in a different way to produce this race of Nephilim. And these Nephilim, or I forget how to pronounce it, but they become these giant creatures, and they're cannibalistic. They eat humans. They're tromping on them. It's the world, and God basically says, "Okay, we're going to hit the reset button," and He sends the flood. The thing that's always troubled me is that we have giants later in the Old Testament. David famously killed one with a sling, but Goliath had 4 brothers. So if you wonder why David took 5 stones out of a brook, Goliath had brothers. And these 2 were eventually killed. And there were still reports throughout history of giants. Why were these not wiped out in the flood? Or is it possible, and I don't want to frighten anyone here, is it possible that they actually are still impregnating women? And They have a book about it.
Yeah, there's a whole book on this, and it's called Countermove, How the Nephilim Returned After the Flood. And I wrote it because of just that question. So many people come and go, I don't understand how this happened. There's a second, third, fourth incursion. He keeps the dragon, Satan, keeps doing the same thing. He tries to, Doug Hamp, corrupting the image. He tries to corrupt the seed. He tries to corrupt the bloodline of Messiah. He tries to do that. And of course he fails because Jesus hangs on the cross. Thank God he's there, because without it, there'd be no redemption of sin. There wouldn't be. So he pays the price. And here's something to think about. How do you kill God? This is another sidebar we could go down. This is why no one gets it. The 2 Marys at the cross with John, they don't understand what's happening. This is why the crowd is yelling, come down, because they know he can come down. He doesn't come down. How do you kill God? The dragon's figuring, Satan's going, he's got to come down soon because we can't kill him. What's going on here? But Jesus dies. Body lays in the tomb. There's the Shroud of Turin. There's a second incursion. There's a second, the third, the fourth, the fifth incursion. They come back and they do it over and over and over again, basically until the cross. And then it goes away. And this is something really interesting, and it ties in with all of our archaeological work. There's a war going on between the good guys and the bad guys.
Where's that war taking place, L.A.?
Oh, it's all over the planet. It certainly in many of the ancient megalithic sites that you see throughout the world, something happens there. They're shut down. They're closed. Why is that? And we believe that the Nephilim architecture, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. When you go to a place like Sacsayhuaman in Peru, and by the way, I've led tours there. When you're there at Sacsayhuaman and you're looking at, where is it? And you're looking at this wall, which defies, anything that you've ever seen before. And the stones are absolutely humongous. And this is what it looks like. That's the centerfold right there.
Wow.
And to give you an idea of what it looks like when you're a little closer, that's Brian Forrester's wife, Irene. And let me, there she is.
Wow.
I wonder how, and they're cut very smooth.
Yeah, you can't do this in modernity, guys. There's no cranes. You can't, this is andesite stone. All the Inca have is copper chisels. What I just showed you, I believe, was Nephilim architecture, fallen angel technology, pre-flood. Because it only exists pre-flood. It only exists for a certain period of time that's never duplicated. I mean, this is a 3-hour conversation on the Trail of the Nephilim. We have 8 films on it. I've been all over the world to many of these different sites filming there. We're actually working on another number 9 of On the Trail of the Nephilim. So it's, it's a deep dive. Look, there's 32 films and 14 books. Number 15 isn't out. I've got an hour with you guys. So, we're focusing on the UAP thing. It is, let me leave you with this. It is the coming great deception. This is the coming great deception. There's no doubt about it.
Do you think our government will have a hand in that?
Who?
Our government. Because you talk about a great deception. We've always heard about Project Bluebeam, where, they are going to plan a fake alien invasion.
Yeah, well, that's been going bandied about. But what if it's not a fake alien invasion? What if it's the real deal? What if it's global? What if it happens all over the world? It's cities of the world where what we get. That's why, mile-wide UFOs over the cities of the world. This is why you need to watch. Go to YouTube after the show and Google, do a search, 2024 Super Bowl ad, hello down there. It'll blow your mind because it's predictive programming. It's a global event. When they show up, it's a global event. And I think we're close to something.
Just a point of clarification, and then we're going to come right back to you, Commander Cobra. LA has mentioned a couple of times here a great deception. And this is something that Bible-believing Christians are tuned into. It's a reference to the 2 Thessalonians. It's a book of the Bible. The Apostle Paul is writing. And he's talking about the time of the end and the Antichrist. And in chapter 2, verses 9 and 10, it says this, namely, the one who is coming, meaning the Antichrist, is in accordance with the activity of Satan, with all power, signs, and false wonders. So he's going to be able to do miracles. And with every unrighteous deception for those who are perishing, because they did not receive the love of the truth so as to be saved. For this reason, God is sending upon them a powerful delusion so that they will believe the lie. And Jesus says, I think it's in Matthew 24, that at the time of the end, this deception is going to be so powerful that if it were even possible, even ardent believers would be deceived. And this deception that LA is referring to is this alien intervention in human history where, look, we're nowhere near uniting the world. But here comes this race of all-powerful beings who stops us from annihilating ourselves. So thanks for that, guys. And they say, by the way, we created you. We made humanity. And, those guys that we popped up every once in a while to give you a hand, Buddha and Krishna and Muhammad and Jesus, they were us. We made them too. And then everyone in the world says, wow, everything's now explained. So that fills in some of the gaps. Cobra, go.
That's exactly what it is.
No, and it's a very elegantly stated, and it's in almost nearly pure form the way you put it there, Padre, and I appreciate that. I'm going to pull us away from this just for a little bit. We're coming up on about the last 6-7 minutes on this hour. one of our audience in the chat is looking for a specific film, video from ULA that shows something that's not technology. Now, if everybody's listening and even half listening, there's plenty of places on your site to go to, I think, to see a lot of that material. But what he's driving, I think, is what a lot of people say. For a long time, it took me a long time to come to say that Roswell is what you described, because I had gone through the mini deception thing of reading so many books, looking at both sides, 3 sides, 4 sides of it. And I've concluded, just like I concluded a long time back, that this whole Tic Tac thing, I don't think is extraterrestrial. I think it's harnessed gear. I think it's funny that everyone says, well, there's no possible way anybody could be inside there and survive. Really? So you think that you're going to apply the same rules of air-breathing aircraft and gravitational work, and there's no, and it's advanced tech, but it's not advanced in all respects. Place silly to me that people have those kind of notions. Driving back for our listener, do you have a particular place that you point to say, look, this one? You showed the photograph from Turkey, and I think that that's probably one of the most dramatic documentations ever. And the reason I think it's so dramatic is because aside from you, it's downplayed tremendously. And anything that's downplayed tremendously tells me you're onto something.
Yeah, just go to streaming.lamarzulli.net, streaming.lamarzulli.net, and you want to get the first film in the UFO film series. That's the one you want to get, the very first one, because that's where we unpack and show Dr. Roger Lear and the Kumbergaz UFO. That's the one you want to get. You
would agree that that's probably the most telling, the most demonstrative?
I think so, because the beings are in the craft. Dr. Roger Lear watched the thing for hours.
So when I think what he's looking at here is there any kind of a motion video that you could point to, and you referred to that one, that you say this is a representative, unexplained UAP that fits with all of this material that I've done?
That's the one.
That's the one. Okay.
We definitely go to that one, because it's like, that's why people, like Cobra was saying, maybe people are protesting. Look, we had the original footage from Dr. Roger Lear. Rick, my late business partner, Richard Shaw, went over it frame by frame. I mean, people can do what they want to believe. If you think it's fake, fine, believe what I don't care. We've done the deep dive. We took out an implant from a man who had been abducted when he was 5 years old, and implanted Emil. In fact, I had breakfast with him a couple of days ago on Monday on Labor Day. I had breakfast with Emil. He was 5 years old, was implanted. This stuff is high strangeness. It gets really weird, but when mile-wide crafts show up, it's over, and that's what they're waiting for. It'll change the entire globe in a nanosecond. That's it.
We have about 4 minutes to the break here. That implant, tell us about that, because you were present when that was removed from the person, correct?
Yeah, we were the only Christian film company to ever do that.
And what happened? Tell us.
Well, we took out the implant, but there was a whole series of protocols that Dr. Roger Lear had in place. So the first thing we did is we took an X-ray. Okay, where's the implant? It's below my knee. Does it show up on an X-ray? Okay, there's a piece of metal below your knee. We got that. Then a CAT scan. Guess what? Here's the metal right below the knee. Something's there. It's right below the surface. There's no entry wound, no sign of an entry wound. Then we did, we took a metal detector from Home Depot. There it was, a stud finder. It was giving off a radio frequency, and on and on and on it goes. So finally, we're at Dr. Matriciana's office, and he's got the ultrasound wand, and he's going like this. And he goes, yep, there it is. We'll see in 2 weeks we take it out. So now we've got film crews there. We're there, obviously, because we spearheaded. We paid for the whole thing, right? Richard Shaw and I from Watchers series. Can't find the implant. Dr. Matriciana is going like this with the wand over. Let's pretend this is the leg. Going like this. Can't find it. After an hour and 20 minutes, he says to Dr. Roger Lear, maybe we should get another x-ray. Dr. Lear goes, no, we know exactly where it was. Holy Spirit taps me on the shoulder. You need to pray, and you need to take authority over this, and you need to do it now. And I prayed in a room full of non-believers, except for Richard Shaw. And the prayer was very simple. Father, if there are forces cloaking this device, I pray that you would break their power and do it soon. That implant came in like this, from the back, way back like this. Boom, just like that. Then you could see it. And everybody's going, oh my gosh, what's that? It's the implant.
Incredible.
And 20 minutes later, it was out. It's all in the film. It's in Watchers 10, High Strangeness. It's right there. I mean, this is like real work. I mean, it's not, you got to spend time in the library. I get it. But this is like cutting edge stuff. I mean, who else? How many people have done this on the planet of 8 billion people? And, we were lucky enough to be able to do it.
Well, L.A., we need to take a break here, a commercial break, and we'll be back in about 2.5 minutes with more with L.A. Marzulli. So please stay with us. Welcome back to UAP Crossfire. You're here with Commander Cobra and Chris DiPerno, and our guest this evening is L.A. Marzulli. He has stepped away for a moment. He'll be back with us shortly. Your impressions so far, Chris?
Oh, he's just fabulous. But he makes you think. I've always been kind of a person that I want to find out the truth and stuff, but he sits you down and he's got answers to things that we better start thinking about. And I think that's an important thing that he puts it in your head, saying, guys, it's time to start thinking about what you are really about in life and what this whole thing is. And I don't think he's far off the track. I absolutely agree that I think this type of procedure with UFOs and stuff is going to be something hard swallowed. I mean, it's going to be glorious in the beginning. I don't think they're good people. I mean, I agree with him that I think they're not here for anything good. Look, I've always said this before, and I'll say it again. If they were such good, if they were extraterrestrials from another planet that had the idea of coming here and helping us, why haven't they done it? They see wars going on. They see pollution going on. They see water being poisoned. They see all these things, and it could all stop if they came down. Well, good chance that a lot of it would stop if they came down and taught us, if they were good. Mm-hmm. But if I was an enemy of this, if I was demonic in one way, I think let them go kill each other. And then when the time is right, I come down and be the big savior.
Yeah, and that's the plan, as some of us see it. Cobra.
So I'm going to jump real quick. I'm trying not to make it sound too religious, too biblical, but like politics has permeated almost every part of our cultural life right now, especially in the United States. I don't think you can dismiss that you can't recognize the biblical aspect of all of this that's going on. So with that said, you in particular, my present pastor, you being you, Padre, shared a picture with me that shows all the references that tie in from the Old Testament or First Testament to the New Testament. It's an amazing depiction. Mm-hmm. It's so amazing I bought it because I wanted it to have a picture of it. So I have a large size representation of it. And I talk about it a lot because it makes a lot of sense, and it's a missing gap from my youth religious education. Mm-hmm. With that said, very prophetic. is how I put LA. The other part that I've talked about for years, even as a young person looking at this, reading those books that my dad had when I was, preteen, or I should say, the early teen years would be probably more accurate. All these things fit together. All these things are connected. So once I came to that conclusion, I've been searching for groups of people that, can engage on this and, okay, what parts are you seeing here? Paul Eno, bless his soul, was one of those guys that talked about these things in a very straightforward way, because he experienced a lot of this, but he also had a seminarian background before he decided not to become a priest. And he was in exorcisms, and he was a recorder for what they were doing in those things. And it opened up a lot of his understanding to explain that. So with all those things said, and those parts coming in together, here we are. And now if you're willing to step back and drop whatever particular party that you support or philosophy, think about things like terms that have been thrown around: fundamental transformation, missing gaps, the kind of bread and circus that's going on this particular subject in UAP, where it could be solved in a minute.
Yep.
Now, we're at a point, and I don't know if the present administration makes this more difficult or more easy. I don't know. For this event to come. I'm not sure what it is, but there's no doubt in my mind that we're hurtling towards that. And our ability to communicate, our ability to exchange information, our ability to carry around a cell phone that has more computing power than we had 20 years ago. And yet, is it by error that at any given time, half of what the activity on the internet, the World Wide Web, the creation of Al Gore is pornography? And I don't throw that out for sensationalism. No. I'm pointing it out that is the perfect place if you're trying to throw off even more of your population.
It's been said you can tell a lot about someone by their friends. You can tell more about them by their enemies. I mentioned this pastors group that I'm a part of, and every one of them that's on that call this last week said they have been threatened for getting too deep into UFO stuff. LA, in your book, Rungs of Disclosure, you mentioned an encounter that you had in which you were threatened. Please tell us about that.
It was 2016. I was right before the election, and we were being harassed, and this one man wanted to meet me, and so at the Dallas conference, he came down, and I had a bodyguard with me who was packing, and he showed me his badge, and he said, "What kind of what kind of cell phone do you have?" And I go, "But I have an iPhone. Is it encrypted?" I said, "No." He goes, "Well, when they come to arrest you, they'll find kiddie porn on it."
Wow.
He goes, "What kind of car do you drive?" I have a 1991 Mercedes-Benz SL 500, which I bought for next to nothing and restored. I call it the go-kart. Well, you could have a fiery crash with that, and we can control it because it has a computer. Do you have any children? Yeah, I have 2 girls. One of them could go missing and never be found again. And then I looked at him and I said, "I get it. I'm a worm. You can crush me, but you can't touch me unless he gives you the go-ahead." And it was like a punch to his solar plexus. And I said that not because I'm some great warrior like Cobra or, Navy SEAL.
Thank
you. You know what I mean. I mean,
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm a musician. I'm a guy. It's like I never, anyway. But I know who he is, who the Lord is, and I know that I'm protected, and I know that he guards me, he rescues me, he sets me in places where I'm protected. He's a shield about me. Thou, O Lord, are a shield about me. So that's how I was threatened. And about, a few months later, I'm driving up one of the canyons and I hear poop. And the car, I have no control of the steering wheel, and I'm headed to a cliff. If I had gone over, I'd be dead. and because there was no power steering, and I come to a jam on the brakes and come slide to us. If my wife had been driving that car, she wouldn't be here today. She wouldn't have known what to do. So I jammed on the brakes and slid to a stop. Trump gets elected, it all goes away. It all just goes away. And then instead of the threats, what we got, and by the way, the reason why I was threatened was because of our work on the Kandahar Giant. That's what put us on the radar. They didn't like that.
Now, what you looked at your car, and what did you find had malfunctioned?
When the tow truck came up to get me, I had popped open the hood, and I saw the timing belt. And I just held the timing belt up to the driver, and I said, "Hey, what do you make of this? What do you think about this?" And he took the belt and looked at it, and he looked at me and he goes, "Do you have any enemies?"
Wow.
It had been cut in different places.
So that had been weakened so that it would snap. Yeah. Kandahar Giant. This enters an area of discussion about, are there still giants in the land?
Yeah, there are. I mean, I say that. Yeah, we broke the story on that once again in our Watchers series. I mean, this is real investigative journalism. It's like boots on the ground. We talked to a shooter. We talked to a second witness. Since then, I've had other people, special forces people, come up and tell me things that only, they knew. So
Can we
the story,
kill him?
what?
Can we kill them? I mean,
yes and no.
Vulnerable.
You can decapitate them, but you can. The only way you can kill them is basically to decapitate them. Yeah, that's Watchers. I believe it's 10, number 10, somewhere. It should be there. But that's the one with the Kandahar Giant. And it's there was a patrol in 2001 that was dispatched in the Kandahar province in Afghanistan looking for high-value targets. And as they're walking, they missed their first rally point. They missed their second rally point. They missed they're gone. No one knows where they are. Next morning, another patrol is dispatched in the same location. They're following their footsteps. They get to this mountain area. They're way up high above the valley floor. There's like this ledge, which is, 20, 30, 40 feet wide and long. So it's, they look down and there's like pieces of bone and uniforms, and something happened there. I'm freaking out. Out of the cave above them, there's a cave. Out of that cave comes a 12-footer, flaming red hair, brandishing a spear, yelling at the top of his lungs. And they all froze. I mean, who wouldn't? I don't care. But one guy, his training kicked in and he starts firing his weapon at him. The giant moves with such agility and speed that everyone's taken aback by this. Before anybody could do anything, the soldier is impaled on this very large spear, this lance, and the giant is thundering and yelling at the top of his lungs. Someone yells, "Shoot him in the head, shoot him in the head." They basically decapitate him. The giant falls down. A Chinook helicopter comes in. Jolly Green Giant comes in. They get him in a net. They hoist the thing out of there. They're flown back to the base. They write their report. They're told to rewrite the report and never say anything about the giant. So our second witness was in the same base, the Kandahar privates in Afghanistan, and there were all these rumors going around about the Kandahar Giant.
Do you think that Bigfoot and some of these strange creatures we hear about, Mothman or skinwalkers, are these all in this same
yes and no. Yes and no. Let's walk through that.
Okay.
Bigfoot is a modern day Nephilim hybrid, in my opinion.
Okay.
He's modern day Nephilim. It's genetic. They're messing with this guy. They're creating a super soldier through Bigfoot. They can pop in, they can pop out. Mothman was a fallen angel, completely different species, completely different deal. Mothman was a fallen angel. In my book, Further Evidence, I sat down with the only person we're aware of, Lawrence Gray, who ever had a victory over Mothman. And this thing appeared in his room.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, and he sat up And he finally could say the blood of Jesus. When he did that, the thing just disintegrated. A skinwalker, which you're never supposed to say, never use that word, but an SW is a shaman who has undergone certain ritualistic things in order to take on the persona of his spirit animal, whether it's a wolf, coyote, a raven, whatever. That's what he is.
Why can't you say the word?
Native Americans tell you not to say it.
In fact, conjure one, right?
Well, not necessarily. It's just they tell you not to do it, not to say the word.
You think it opens the door? Is that one of the door opening things?
They would all get up and leave. If they were here right now, they would get up and leave, walk out of the room.
So am I in
if I was
danger?
on the show, I'd be doing that too right about now.
I just said it. Am I in danger?
No, you're not. It's not like you're in danger, but it's like you don't.
It's an embodied disrespect, and you're invoking a spiritual element that they are strongly. If you think about some of the things you, as a Christian pastor, don't ever want someone to say, to use Jesus Christ in a less than anything but proper way.
Right.
It's the same reason.
Right.
I see.
On that.
Okay.
Good point. By the way, guys, I have to leave at the bottom of the hour, so I have another
All right,
15 minutes.
LA, I want to ask you a question about Fatima. I've always been interested in Fatima. You wrote about it. The incident that took place in 1970. Yeah. I mean, if there ever was a ufologist that knew these things, it's you. Tell us about Fatima. What do you think the future of Fatima is going to be? And why is the Catholic Church keeping everything so secret?
I mean, we have 2 films on Fatima. They're like, over an hour long each. I will show you something. And this is a never before seen photograph that we got from a gentleman who's a professor of semiotics who lives in Portugal, and he had access to the sanctuary. The sanctuary is where all the documentation is kept, including the 11 photographs that were taken by Joshua Benolio, who was the king of Portugal. They were a republic at that time, but the king's royal photographer. Joshua Benolio was out in the field. This is his picture right there. You can see the sea of people. But I'm going to show you something. Jose Machado is the professor of semiotics, and he found this photograph, and they allowed us to publish it. This has never been seen before. What do you see right under the letter H? What is that?
That's a saucer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
A lot of light in a saucer.
Yep, there it is. There it is. And the eyewitnesses who were there looked up and saw a disc-like object. This is 1917. In my opinion, it was a UFO event. And, I've gone toe-to-toe with Catholics who believe it was Mary of the Bible. Believe what you want to believe. If you think it was Mary of the Bible, more power to you. But it wasn't. It was a UFO event. It was a harbinger of deception.
We have someone in chat who has been patient, waiting to have their question asked, LA. They want to know about the shadow government. Is anyone here able to identify a member of the shadow government? And was the man who threatened you, LA, a member of the shadow government? And if so, how do you know?
Well, obviously he was on my tail. He contacted me. He met me in Dallas, and he threatened me 3 different times, 3 different ways. Maybe
the irony of that happening in Dallas is not lost on me either.
There you go. Right? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, Butler, PA was Dallas 2.0.
Correct.
And we still don't know anything about what happened, do we?
The only thing they did better this time was the disposal and cleanup was much more efficient.
Way more. Yeah. Way to go, boys.
And you have to, because you had all these other activities and all these people with phones, with recording. Again, it didn't work out the way it was planned. That's obvious. I will say, glad and proudly say, that was the hand of God. Like or dislike,
Absolutely.
There's no question in my mind about that. There was divine intervention there.
Jonathan
But-
Kahn has a new book called Avatar. I interviewed him at the Charisma Media Day, and we had a great interview. And in that, he talks about what happened and how it was actually an anointing. How God, it's like he compares Donald Trump with Jehu. It's a great book. If you've not read Avatar, it's coming out soon. You want to get a copy of it.
L.A., do you believe there, and this came in chat, and I thought this was an excellent thing, came from, do you believe that we are containers? There's been a lot of talk that humans are containers of their souls, of things.
Yeah, that's from Bob Lazar. That just came out very recently. We are containers. You could look at us that way. That's a very detrimental put down. We are containers. We have spirit, soul, and body. This body of mine contains my spirit and my soul. And only God can give a soul. And what these demonic entities want is your soul. That's what they want. In the book of Revelation, it says they traffic in men's souls. What the heck does that mean? That's what's happening now. They want your soul. Well, my soul is sealed by the blood of the Lamb, by the blood of Jesus, and that ain't going anywhere, no matter what. I'm sealed. I'm sealed by the blood of the Lamb. Hallelujah. But this is where we are, and they are trafficking in these containers. And in that container is a soul and a spirit. Nephilim have no soul. Spirit, but they have no soul.
What would they do with our souls? You say they want our souls. What do they do with it if they get our souls?
Where do you think it goes? Where do you think it would go? Right down there.
So the only goal is the separation from.
Eternal separation from God. And now you're in the lake of fire for eternity. And I don't understand how any of that works. I really don't. But I know it's coming, and the enemy knows it's coming.
So do you think, given the way things are unfolding now,
soon,
how much time do you think we have?
Not much.
Okay.
Not much. I think things are coming to a head. You asked in the pre-show, because I want to get to this because we're down to 10 minutes, and I want to answer this. And I'm sorry I can't stay for the other half hour. Usually I only do 1 hour shows, so I didn't know 2 hour show.
Well, thank you so much.
Appreciate
it. No worries. So let's talk about 3-Eye Atlas. Okay. Avi Loeb. A lot of these people who just get right, they're all over the news media. Look at me, dun, 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 dun. Go get him, Abby, and more power to you. So now he's saying that this is probably an extraterrestrial vehicle, blah, blah, blah. So they call it 3-Eye Atlas. Let's walk through this. What is Atlas, first of all? Atlas is a Nephilim. Atlas is a Greek god, Greek mythos. Atlas is part human and part God, right? Atlas. What is he doing? He's holding the world on his shoulders. They're telling you that what's coming is a global event. Now, this is conjecture. Mm-hmm. This is all conjecture. I could be 100% wrong, but I might not be. Atlas is holding up the globe, so they are telegraphing, the powers that be are telegraphing you and me, for those who have eyes to see, that this is a global event. The world will witness it together. 3-Eye, third eye.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. What is the third eye? The gateway to so-called enlightenment. Right? 3-Eye Atlas. It's a global event that will awaken the Christ consciousness in everybody on the planet.
Okay, here's something else. 3-Eye is destined to arrive during Passover in 2029. Book of Revelation divides up the 7 years of trial and tribulation into 2 periods of 3.5 years. If you back up 3.5 years from Passover 2029, you're in September 2025. That's something to think about.
Yeah, and when it says no man knows the day or the hour, it's a Jewish idiom, Yom Teruah. It's a Jewish idiom. When Jesus is saying this 2,000 years ago, it's a Jewish idiom. Everybody knows exactly what he's talking about. He's talking about Yom Teruah. where they don't know when the moon is first going to appear. So they go out and they look for the moon, and when they see it, they blow the shofar. Beast of trumpets, anybody, right? And then the priests come out and look at it and go, but it changed. No one knew the day or the hour. So we don't know the day or the hour, Yom Teruah, but we could be close to something. He could be taking us out of here. I'm not a date setter, and my hand was on the plow. I'm working on books and films, and I do a daily show. I'm not sitting on a mountain. But what's my blessed hope? What is my hope of hopes? Man, it would really be cool if he decided to come back on September 23rd. It would really be cool. But we don't know. We don't know.
As our time with LA winds down, one last question from each of you. Commander, you're first.
LA, explain to everyone what gives you the strength to continue to pursue this. And I know that's another hour question. Perfect.
It's all him. He took us off the road. We bowed out of 16 conferences this year. I will be the only conference I'll be speaking at. Well, we did the Prophecy Watchers earlier this year. Is the Prophecy Watchers conference. That's our tribe. I'm on the board. Some of my dearest friends are there. Gary Stearman, Bob Ulrich, Mongo Gonzalez, and others. Larry Ollison. That's our tribe. I will be in Norman, Oklahoma. There is live streaming that you can check out there too. You don't even have to go anywhere.
What's the date of that?
It's October 5th to the 8th, or the 5th to the 10th. I have to look at my calendar. Right in there. Go to prophecywatchers.com, prophecywatchers.com. Sign up for the live streaming if you can't make it. But usually it's about 1,000 people, and it's the gathering of our tribe. So really looking forward to that.
Chris?
LA, I mean, this has been an unbelievable 90 minutes. Sir, what do you think is the next sign that we'll see?
Well, I mean, the signs that Jesus warns us of are all firing. There'll be wars, rumors of wars, famines, pestilence, earthquakes in diverse places. We're here. That's not changed at all. I mean, we are absolutely in the window of time where all this is taking place. The question is, and now with AI, you don't know what's real and what's fabricated anymore. I mean, how can you be held accountable to anything? You don't know. You don't know what you're looking at. So it's, everything is, it's all here. The dinner plate is set. Excuse me. It's just a question of how it's going to unfold. I watch, but I don't engage in hyperbole. I'm not sitting there going, oh my God, the rapture of the church is going to happen. But it could. It could. And am I obsessed with it? No. But I'm watching.
Yep.
What does my heart want? All day long, man. Let's go. Let's go yesterday. Are you kidding? This place is nutso.
In the words of Robin Williams, there's many people that have the look of that last guy that stepped off the roof of the embassy in Saigon getting on the helicopter.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that have that look.
Yeah. I mean,
we're ready.
We're ready. I mean, look, I'm 75 years old. I've had a very wonderful long life. We do a daily show, LA Marzulli, on our YouTube. I have 15 books and 32 films, and I'm working on number 33 right over there is my edit suite. I want to thank my business partner, Gil Zimmerman. Here's the 10 films on the whole UFO disclosure. You can rent them or buy the 10 DVD box set. Close Encounters of the First, Second, Third, and Fourth Kind, Abductions, Crop Circles, Catty Mutilations, 2 films on Roswell. Finally, What is the Truth? We sat down with Nick Pope, George Norrie, Nick Redford, and others, and Gary Stearman and Mongo Gonzalez, and talked about the 2 paradigms. Are these really extraterrestrials, or are they interdimensional beings with a very nefarious agenda? And of course, I hold to the latter. It's a very, very nefarious agenda.
One last thing, if you would please. For those who are church workers and pastors like myself, who are wrestling with what is the best way to share this with our fellowship, what would you recommend?
Well, I mean, obviously, if I could come to your church, but I'm not doing that anymore. Mm-hmm. And I used to show up, and speak Friday night for 3 hours, which is a primer all day Saturday, Q&A behind everything, and then Sunday morning. So I would arm the people. But that's why I'm saying, we've got 10 films on the UFO phenomenon. We're the only Christian ministry that really deals with it in toto. There are other films out there, and they're good. Some of them are really good. But most of them are very truncated, and they don't understand the breeding program. They don't tie it back, Daniel 2:43. So, rungs of disclosure. You mentioned that earlier. I mean, this is a lot of great information in this book. So, I mean, the resources are all there. lamarzulli.net, lamarzulli.com, rungsofdisclosure.com. It's all there. And I just want to thank you guys for having me on.
Oh, it's
Thank
our
you.
pleasure.
We understand.
Ours. Thank you.
We know you have to go. Thank you. It's been a very meaningful time. God bless you.
God bless you guys. Take care.
And thank your wife from me personally, how sweet she was.
I will. Take care.
Thank you, LA.
Well, guys, we're going to stay here and kind of digest some of this for the next 30 minutes for our viewers. I realize that this is a more religious take than some people wanted to have. But I came into this a little over a year ago. And the reason I did it is I had been listening to another UFO podcast, and there was a scientist on there who said, I'll paraphrase what he said. It was basically, Bible-believing Christians do not have the intelligence necessary to participate in the UAP discussion. I was offended by that. And so I sent an email to the producer of that broadcast, and he had me on as a guest. Normally an hour show went for an hour and 40 minutes. And the producer, Bill, of this show, then invited me to come on UAP Crossfire, and Christians have a seat at the table. And I know you guys, are men of faith as well. But to have somebody who has a foot in this arena that LA comes from, and has been looking for a way to explain how everything ties together, it's a privilege and an honor to be able to come on this platform and examine things. With what he said about hybrids, and with what Robert Bigelow said, quote, that they are among us. What do you guys think about that, Commander?
Well, all things are possible to me. And we've talked about this before. One of the things I really love about LA's work is that it has the demands of the profession of journalism on how he backs up what he's presenting with the research. He also has a deep understanding. So that is not what we do now and call it journalism and when we present things. And that's not by accident. This is a process to get us to this point. Again, I tell people, step back and look at this. But Padre, you've known me now for about a year. We've been pretty close friends and have had lots of chats. I don't need disclosure to affirm what I believe.
Right.
And that's because of my Christian faith. I there's no other way for me to separate those things out of it. And when I don't pay attention to my faith, that's when I get myself into trouble, or I get myself off track and to drive back towards it. So there is an expression that goes on now with many folks that have spent time in the military that have this kind of an outlook. I'm not talking about the phenomenon and UAPs and paranormal, but are talking about this poet warrior or warrior poet kind of life, that you have this very defined and refined way of doing business. You think of the work that Chris and Don have done in law enforcement. Don's case, a young soldier wounded, a police officer wounded. And then the work that he did and the kinds of things that he did with the magazine with Vicky And a quick shout out to them that I hope they're both feeling better and well, and that they're on the road to recovery. Whatever is holding them back tonight. When you look at those kinds of things, I just keep coming back to, I don't need the outside affirmation. And if you listen to LA, and I wish he was still on so he could give me the nod or say, well, you kind of got it right, Cobra. You have a desire to let other people know. I try to demonstrate my Christianity more than I try to say my Christianity. I figure it's better to know me by I do this. So I made this remark, I think, last week to you guys. When I screw up at work, when I lose my temper over something, I will go and make my apologies, but I'll also ask for the forgiveness that the old guy who's old enough to be the dad of most of the people I work with, and sadly now becoming old enough to be the grandfather to a lot of the people I work with, age-wise, just, got off the track. And I see that same kind of approach here that we need to have with this subject. If someone comes to me and says, well, I am absolutely sure this is the event, this is the one that goes forward, tell me why. Let's talk about why I don't think something fits on there. But it doesn't mean we're leaving the subject. And I'm going to tie it back in. We talked a lot about Catholicism tonight. We talked a lot about Christianity. It's all one Christian faith. It's all one Christian church with subdivisions in it. Just like there is a multitude of dimensions, slices, pieces, parts, groups within UAPs, within the paranormal part of it. The sooner we unite to understand the common ground that we have, the sooner we will save ourselves from what is going on. Because a lot of this appears to me, again, and I know this is probably very uncomfortable to a lot of people who listen to the show if they're still with us, because it's power by the hour at this point, right? And this guy, Commander Cobra, is up on there. Why was there Babel? Why was there that tower? And what happened there? And that's what's happening to us. We are being segmented into different tongues, into different groups, because there's a drive to do that. And it's not divine on this time. This time it is because we're dealing with the demonic side of this. If you step back and look at it, I think you start to realize there's an underpinning to all of this activity that ties it together. And a lot of folks are going to say, no, it's not. I don't want to talk about this stuff. I don't want to. I'm never going to listen to UAP Crossfire again if you guys bring up religion again. Except for the part where you talk about a religion that has recorded a UAP and it's really, really good. That I'll listen to.
Chris, your thoughts?
I don't know what to say. My commander may walk off the show.
No. Mic drop. Okay.
Saying this, look, LA is the kind of person that can open up your eyes. Now, your first question was about hybrids. Dr. Jacobs has done a lot of work on it. There's a Chinese scientist who says they're walking among us. And other scientists and other people say that there's hybrids walking among us. The question is why and what is their purpose? And because you have to look at that. Now, 50%, and I'm looking at this chart here. So 50% of this vote, they took a poll, and judging by what this, 50% believe this. So you have 50% of this poll believing that there's not only aliens from another planet, but they're here, they're walking among us, and they're breeding with us. And so why, if people could see these polls, why not come out with it? Now people will say, well, it'll destroy the banking system. It will destroy the churches. It will destroy. I don't think it's going to destroy anything. I think there's a very nefarious reason why they won't do it. I really absolutely agree with Don Eckert when he says this is something that's nefarious. And it's never going to come out. I certainly believe that. Now, whether something's going to come out 72 hours from now, I've heard that story, God knows, for years, not months. Oh, they're going to come out with something in 72 hours. Oh, this hearing is going to pave the way. Yeah, okay. And we get nothing but laughter. It's the biggest comedy shows I've ever seen. These congressional hearings. People have been killed, but I can't talk to you out here about it. And then nobody even asks them the questions. We got to go in the skip for this question. Lou Elizondo, I'd like to tell you, but I can't tell you. That's an easy line to say by all these people. If you got a set of that clank, come out and say it. And then, you're putting yourself in that position, say it, and then take the consequences of it. So ufology is really at a stale point right now, because I really believe that either we come out with it or people are just going to say, the hell with this. And I think people are saying it now. I really, if you look at statistics, sighting reports have dropped dramatically. And I don't believe that, there's less stuff flying in the skies. I just kind of believe that, people don't give a damn anymore.
That's because I think they're looking down at their hands, at their handheld device.
Well, and
that's not by accident.
No, and I agree with you with that, Commander. But I will say, though, whether that's not by accident or not, people are not getting in tune with this subject anymore like it was years ago. Years ago, people were out looking, trying to find something. Now they go, because I got many people saying, I don't care anymore. You got Starlink up there. You got the space station up there. You got military planes up there. What is it? I don't care. I want to see the Yankee ball game.
Gentlemen, these beings, are they benevolent or nefarious in your view, Commander?
I think you have groups that are both. And I think that's explained. I think that by outcomes.
And what do you think, Chris?
I tend to lean toward the nefarious side only because history of them has shown that they haven't done anything. Look, somewhere along the line, there's got to be, I'm not saying that they're all nefarious, but somewhere along the line, somebody up in one of these spaceships has got to be turning around and saying, geez, how do we go shouldn't we go down there and help these guys? It would be a conversation for you and I, Dan. Look at what we do when there's turmoil and stuff. A lot of people, a hurricane, a flood or something. Volunteers from all over the United States say, we got to go help these people. And maybe, species don't have consciousness like we do. Maybe we're something special where we think, hey, somewhere deep in our soul, we have to find a way.
I think you just optimized the word there, Chris. If we're going to follow what we were talking about tonight, having a soul tied to your spirit and the physicality and not an entity, you're going to probably find those two having the conflict, and there's going to be a rapid drop-off. If you look at the stance that I was talking about before, where you have, especially when we talk about this from a military perspective, you have this warrior kind of ethos that goes along with it. But if it doesn't have a poetic side to it, if you haven't refined that, you may be great on the battlefield, but you're not doing a good job when you're not on the battlefield. If that's the easiest way I can throw that together.
It makes sense.
I'm talking about the same thing here.
Right. If
we're dealing with entities, if we're dealing with beings that do not have any moral coding, it's very sociopathic. Now, if we were to talk about this in the terms of psychology and sociology, and we were using terms of someone that's sociopathic, someone that is psychotic, someone that has these kinds of differences of moral interpretation of what's going on, that has a lack of empathy or has empathy. That's why I say I think you have both in this representation. But I also think when I go back to some of the great shows that I grew up with in television, I think a lot of people that were writing those shows had a lot of inspiration. Are there prime directives?
Yep.
Are there rules of engagement, literally, on how we do this? And think about how activities go with different political systems, different kinds of government, forms of governments, where they'll think, one of the things I want to bring up with LA, this hybridization thing is not something that is just restricted to the things we're talking about. Stalin was very interested in crossing gorillas with humans and actively tried to make a cross hybrid because he believed he could create a superior army. Now, there's a dude that I don't think was spending a lot of time in the Bible.
I don't think he was somebody.
I think he rivals Hitler. Him and Pol Pot are there at the Lake of Fire right now talking about the good old times for the numbers of people that they wiped out. Well, their own people that they wiped out.
I don't know if you know this. Stalin started out as a seminary student. And he wanted to go into the ministry, but he had a falling out with the headmaster, and we can only imagine had that argument turned out a little bit differently, how the world might be a little bit different.
Well, wouldn't you want to kick that headmaster in the ass right now?
Yeah. So let me just try to put some of these many pieces together that we've discussed tonight, and I'll preface this with this is my opinion, my views, and how I think the pieces fit together. Most people would acknowledge there is good and there is evil, and there is a battle going on. And whether or not you agree that that's a spiritual thing or just an inherent thing in human existence, there is this struggle every day is what kind of a person am I going to be? Am I going to be a good person or a bad person? The more evil you do, the more seared your conscience gets to it, and eventually you just don't care anymore, and you're a lost soul, let's say. The more you want to be good, you're looking for what is my anchor to help me be the best person that I can be. And so we have all these world religions. And it's interesting that all of them seem to point to a similar origin stories. That once upon a time, there was a human, the first human being. And this human being came as a result of a non-human intelligence that is extraterrestrial in the sense that non-human intelligence is not of Earth. And many people are putting their faith in the alien space brothers with the belief that they were this non-human intelligence that created us here. And then you have us falling away and messing up. And they're looking forward to the day when the non-human intelligence superior to ours returns to planet Earth and sets everything right again.
Okay.
And makes it the way that it was originally intended to be.
Can I jump in for 1 second, Padre?
Yeah.
So this is why I have a hard time believing the ufology theory of that. It's because if they're the ones that created us, why would they need hybridization? Why would they need to abduct and get sperm and eggs and everything? Mm-hmm. If they created us in the first place, they can create us anyplace else. That's why I don't believe it. I don't have faith in that theory. I just don't, because if you have the technology to start it, mm-hmm. You don't have to come back and do all these things. Abductions are some of the worst things a person has gone through. Now, I'm not saying some people don't have mental illness. Some people exaggerate or make up stuff. But then there's those people who have actually had the experience. And I will tell you, I have only had one case, and I'm suspicious about that one, where a person said it was wonderful. everybody else was frightened out of their gourd, and they have always been frightened afterwards. Mm-hmm. And the idea that a hybridization be placed, now, I do believe they're walking among us. I do believe that they probably look like us. Mm-hmm. You know, I sometimes think my wife is not from this planet, you know, but I will certainly say that there are times where I can't understand why we look at this, why they would want to come back and start taking eggs and sperm and trying to make a cross creature if they're walking among us as themselves. What do you think, Commander, of that?
I think you raise a really good logical point, Chris. And I think the possible case with the person that had the abduction, the thing I would ask, and that said it was a positive, are they I'm air quoting, enjoyed it, do they consider it an abduction? You know, yeah. Is that what it, because if you're abducted, that's not a pleasant thing. That's in the negative area. So if you're abducted and it turns out well, I think the famous story of St. Patrick, that's abducted from what is now Britain, most likely by Celts, and then he goes on a very long journey. Depending on what historical records you look at, he becomes a very important evangelist in the Christian faith, and he wants to return back to the people that abducted him. But at the start of that, not a good time. I'm sure he understands, and maybe that's what this person that had the good part goes, hey, I know people that are much stronger than me that are right now, today, as we're sitting here tonight doing this show, that are going through trials that are just absolutely amazing to me. A friend had to bury his child this week. And, nothing worse in my mind. I can't, if there's one wish, if there was one thing I could ask, no parent would ever bury a child. That's the only thing I'd ask. That would be the absolute epitome that I could pull off. What I'm driving at is some people are able to take these kinds of situations and it hones them. It makes them better. They find a calling. There's just countless examples. Think of people that we all know that have fought illnesses bravely to the end. And they're trying to comfort you, and you're okay physically. And they're the ones that are battling through all this horrible stuff that's going on, and they're concerned about you. Mm-hmm. That's the inspiration that I carry. That's the kinds of things that I think LA sees and seen in the greater scope of the work that he's done. And that's one of the reasons I think that when I got to talk with the Padre here, I said, I got to pull him. I got to lasso him into this show. I need somebody in here because, then I'm off flirting, doing the things anyway. So, we got to fill a hole. But that's not the real drive on there. But, Chris, there's something that you said that has never left me. And it was when you were interviewing one of those really heinous characters and the look that he gave you and the message that he gave you and that how you physically reacted to that engagement.
Scared.
Right. What I'm saying is think about that. And I think I don't think you've ever connected that event, or maybe not at the time you did, to all the other work that you've done with UFOs, all the other work that you've done with people that have had an abductee type experience. All those things shape us, these things that bring you to it. And it makes that kind of a difference when you're trying to explain to people outcomes, experiences. I agree. I don't see, if you're claiming that you are God, that you have to do ungodly things. I don't get that. I don't get how people go along with that. But I'll say this, and we'll watch Padre. He'll pop up here pretty quick, and I know we're running towards the end. Here's the defining line that I would use. The devil, Satan, whatever word you want to use for the evil one, he cannot create. He can only take and destroy. He cannot create. And the domain of creation is with God. And if you think about that, and I'm not expecting anybody to get the big revelation tonight, no pun intended, and I'm not trying to have an ironic kind of run in there. That's just a word that I'm throwing in there. But it probably does have some inspirational basis. If you look at that, it may explain a lot of the phenomena that we see going on. It may, even more importantly, explain why we see this conflict within our country, within our government, going on. And it may also explain why many of us sitting here go, we've all said it, 72 hours from now, a week from now, some senator, some rep could stand on the steps of the Capitol and tell you, and you know what? If I'm driving, I'm not pulling over because I'm not going to believe it. I'm just not. I don't need that person to tell me what I do believe. I'll be more interested in hearing what you guys think has occurred as opposed to some pronouncement that comes out.
And let me say just this real quick, Padre. I think we help feed these narratives so much with the internet because we could take something that might be a rock and we've turned it into a vast spaceship coming down to end the world of that. And we're going to find out, well, it's just another comet.
Mm-hmm. Well, guys, as we wind down here, if you just allow me a couple minutes to kind of get a last word here, Ian. In my heart of hearts, in my soul, I know something is coming. I don't know when, but I know it is going to be huge. And for some people, they will welcome it. For others, they'll be terrified. A time is coming very soon when we're all going to need to know what we believe and why. And the cost of maintaining those beliefs may be very high for some people because we've created such enmity between us and those who are somehow different from us. And if I had, from my perspective, with what I've seen, what I've been through, what I've witnessed in my more than 6 decades on this planet, it would be this. Pick up a Bible and read it. See what it says and make your decision. With that, thank you for spending some time with us this evening on UAP Crossfire. We hope that you will be back next Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time when we have another guest lined up, and it'll be another opportunity to learn more as we dive into this experience together. Good night.